Today, we're tackling a really big topic, security.
Huge, yeah.
We're looking at how we try to protect ourselves, the language we use around caution, and maybe something deeper, that human search for a safe place.
That's right. And we've got two really different sets of source material to work with today. It's quite a contrast.
Okay.
One gives us let's say, the linguistic toolkit. The words and ideas around caution, privacy invasion, that feeling of being watched.
So the paranoia side of things.
Sort of, yeah. The language of being constantly on guard. And then the other source, well, it's a personal story, very different feel.
Right. Isabella's story.
Exactly. It shows what happens when security, both, money-wise and emotionally, is just completely gone. And interestingly, how connections, maybe even safety, can pop up in really unexpected ways.
From places you wouldn't expect.
Precisely, from beginnings that look purely transactional.
So our goal for you, the listener, is kind of twofold then.
Yeah, I think so. First, we want to give you the vocabulary, tools to talk about boundaries, privacy, that kind of thing. And second, maybe push a bit on how we think about safety. Explore how emotional security might grow, even when the starting point isn't about love, but maybe necessity.
Okay, let's get into it. Starting with that language of caution. The source dialogue really zooms in on this word, paranoid.
Right. And it's important to distinguish being paranoid isn't just being careful. It implies you're overly cautious, maybe irrationally afraid that people are out to get you, plotting against you somehow.
It's intense.
Very intense. It's this deep-seated fear of persecution.
And this source gives us this character, Ben,
Yeah.
who seems to embody this, right?
Right.
4 locks, iron bars.
Exactly. His friend asks what's up with his apartment, and Ben lists off these extreme security measures. 4 heavy locks, bars on the windows.
He gets secretes his home like Fort Knox.
Or a bank vault, yeah. A fortress against what he sees as a hostile world. He even mentions hearing voices, noises, feeling watched.
But he pushes back against the label paranoid.
Adamantly. He insists, I'm not paranoid, I'm just cautious.
And that's the crux of it, isn't it? That line between being reasonably careful and something else.
Absolutely. That's where the language gets tricky. Being cautious is, rational, locking your car, maybe avoiding a dark alley late at night. Normal stuff.
Sensible precautions.
Right. But paranoia, that involves acting on feels that are irrational or just completely overwhelming, believing every little noise, every stranger is a direct threat to you.
So for Ben, with the multiple locks, the constant anxiety,
Yeah.
it feels like he's crossed that line.
It certainly suggests his vigilance has moved beyond simple caution into something more consuming, pathological, perhaps.
And this feeling is fueled by specific kinds of threats he perceives. Let's build that linguistic toolkit you mentioned. What are the intruders he's worried about?
Okay, well, the first term that jumps out is sicko.
Strong word.
Very strong. It's informal, highly negative. It means someone who's weird, but in a bad way. Scary, maybe crazy, morally off.
Why use such loaded slang in the source, do you think?
Well, it's a shortcut, isn't it? A psychological shorthand. If you label someone a sicko, you're immediately tagging them as dangerous, repulsive.
Cuts through ambiguity.
Exactly. For someone feeling paranoid, it simplifies the world. There's safe and there's dangerous, represented by the sicko. It categorizes threats quickly.
Okay, so beyond the potentially dangerous sickos, there are more everyday intrusions too. Like telemarketers?
Yes, telemarketers, telephone marketers, people calling to sell you stuff, long-distance plans, cable, whatever.
We've all been there.
Right. And the source notes what makes them annoying isn't usually the danger, it's the timing. Calling at dinner, late at night.
That invasion of personal time.
Exactly. Violating that private evening space.
Yeah.
The source says it drives me nuts. So the intrusion here is about time and peace, not physical threat.
But the sources make a point of distinguishing them from solicitors.
Yeah.
What's the key difference for us?
The mode of intrusion, that's the critical part. Telemarketers are on the phone, remote. Solicitors. They show up at your door.
Physically present.
Right. Door-to-door salespeople, knocking, trying to get you to buy something, sign up for something. They invade your physical space, your doorstep.
Which, for someone like Ben, must feel like a much bigger deal.
Oh, absolutely. A much higher level of perceived threat when they're right there.
And then the source escalates again to a specific kind of violation. The peeping Tom.
Yeah, this is a very specific term, informal, negative. It refers to a voyeur, someone who gets gratification from secretly watching others, usually in private moments like undressing.
Peep, meaning a quick look, right?
Exactly. And the paranoid character in the dialogue claims he caught one red-handed, using a telescope, no less.
Wow, the telescope detail really adds a layer, doesn't it? It makes it seem planned, obsessive.
It really does. It underscores the feeling of vulnerability that even physical barriers like walls aren't enough if someone is determined and uses technology to, bridge that gap.
Which brings us nicely to the phrases people use to justify this level of vigilance. Our fluency builders.
Right. And the first one is almost a mantra for the anxious. You can never be too safe, or you can never be too careful.
You hear that all the time.
All the time. It's the ultimate defense for maybe excessive security measures. The logic is it's better to err on the side of caution.
Just in case.
Exactly. Choose the safest option, even if it seems over the top, because you never know what might happen. It elevates constant vigilance to a virtue.
Okay, next phrase. Caught red-handed. That's a vivid one.
Very vivid. It means being caught right in the middle of doing something wrong while the act is happening.
Where does red-handed come from? Blood.
That's the likely origin, yeah. Caught with literal blood on your hands, the evidence right there. It emphasizes the immediacy, the undeniable proof.
And the source gives us that great analogy.
The cookie jar.
Yeah, caught with his hand in the cookie jar.
It's perfect, isn't it? You picture the kid told no cookies, but mom walks in just as the hand is reaching in. Caught mid-act. Denial is impossible. It really hammers home that idea of being caught during the transgression.
Okay, and the last phrase for this section. On a need-to-know basis.
This one's all about controlling information, keeping things compartmentalized.
Like in spy movies.
Exactly. If something's on a need-to-know basis, you only share the absolute minimum information required for someone to do their specific job or task. Nothing extra.
Why is that seen as safer?
Because knowledge is power, right? In those kinds of narratives, spies, conspiracies, sharing too much information is dangerous. It could fall into the wrong hands. So restricting the flow of information is security.
Controlling information as a defense mechanism. That actually links really well into our next section, doesn't it? Moving from the language to the psychology behind it.
Yeah, when that need for control becomes overwhelming.
Let's look again at Ben from the dialogue. His fear isn't just about one specific sicko or peeping Tom. It's broader.
Right. He talks about this feeling of constant vulnerability. He says he has to be on guard at all times because people just invade your privacy as if they knew you. It's a pervasive sense of being under siege.
And importantly, it's not just individuals he fears. He mentions institutions, too.
That's a crucial point. He specifically mentions his bank, saying they have way too much information about him.
So the threat isn't just the person next door. It's also these big, faceless organizations. Corporate, maybe governmental.
Exactly. The fear expands from the tangible neighbor to the unseen monitor, the data collector. It becomes systemic.
Which leads us toward the more extreme psychological state the sources touch on, using the slang term schizo and referencing schizophrenia.
Right. This is where the source brings in a really powerful and kind of tragic real-world example. The mathematician John Nash.
From A Beautiful Mind. The game theory guy.
The very same. A certified genius. Developed game theory, which is fundamental to understanding strategic decision-making, especially in conflict.
Okay, but the connection is...
The incredible irony, Nash was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic.
Wow. So let's pause there. Game theory. That's all about rational calculation of threats and responses, right? Anticipating the other player's moves logically.
Precisely. It's the mathematical framework for rational distrust, you could say, how to defend yourself strategically.
Yet his own illness involved irrational distrust.
Exactly. His schizophrenia manifested as profound irrational paranoia. He had these complex delusions, believing the government was out to kill him, finding secret messages in newspapers, things totally disconnected from reality.
So his genius created tools for rational defense, but his mind subjected him to completely irrational fears.
It's a stark illustration of that divide between calculated caution, like in game theory, and the pathological paranoia of his illness. It shows what happens when that internal compass for assessing reality breaks down.
It really grounds the difference between Ben, with his locks trying to apply a kind of basic, maybe flawed strategy,
And Nash, who was battling internal perceptions that felt utterly real but weren't based in objective reality.
and the sources mention something important about schizophrenia itself.
Yeah, they provide context. It's not rare, and there isn't a simple cure. Treatment helps, But living with it is often about coping, managing, constantly trying to sift reality from illusion.
A constant struggle for a sense of safety, then.
An exhausting one, whether it's clinical like Nash or just extremely anxious like Ben seems to be. That deep paranoid state is fundamentally about feeling unsafe, constantly battling that feeling.
Okay, so we've explored the language of fear, the psychology of distrust, the need for control. Now let's make a complete shift
Right, pivot.
from that conceptual fear of outsiders to the actual lived experience of having no security at all. Let's turn to Isabella's story.
This is where our second source stat comes in, and it paints a picture of profound scarcity, just utter lack of safety nets. Isabella is 25, a painter in Miami.
But not fine art, right? More like functional.
Yeah, small-scale stuff, flowers on cafe walls, signs for shops. The source emphasizes the money is small, very minimal income.
And her living situation reflects that poverty, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's crucial to understand her baseline. She lives totally alone. A tiny rented room. Just a bed, a chair, a table, a small fan. Clean, but bare bones.
Life sounds incredibly hard.
Defined by extreme frugality. She can't afford basics, tries to save every dollar, sometimes skips dinner just to save money. The sources mention her crying at night sometimes.
Just worn down by it all.
Completely. Her existence is boiled down to work, sleep, and try again. A relentless cycle with no buffer, no safety net.
The contrast with Ben and his four locks is just massive.
Yeah.
He's trying to hoard security. She has none to hoard.
Exactly. He's protecting comfort. She's just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And it's in this context, this state of total vulnerability, that the first glimmer of kindness appears. Her encounter with Edward.
Tell us about that meeting.
It happens on a miserable morning. Cold, rainy. She's outside painting a cafe window. Hands freezing, shirt damp. Edward appears.
What's he like?
Older man, about 60. Gray hair, long coat, walks slowly. The source emphasizes his approach, a soft, kind smile. Very. And his first words aren't demanding, they're observations of her struggle. You look tired. You work very hard. Spoken calmly. It's immediate acknowledgement, not intrusion.
Totally different from the telemarketers or solicitors we talked about earlier.
Night and day. And what's key is how Edward continues. He seems to actively work against any natural suspicion she might feel. He builds trust slowly, consistently.
How does he do that?
Through routine and respect. He starts coming by the cafe every day while she's painting.
Doesn't sound threatening so far.
Not at all. First, he just brings warm tea. Then a step further, he brings bread, telling her gently, "You need to eat." Sometimes small flowers from his garden.
Small kindnesses.
Small, consistent kindnesses. And here's the critical part the source highlights. He never asks intrusive questions. He never makes demands on her time or attention. He's just kind, respectful.
He gives, he doesn't take.
Precisely. It's the absolute opposite of the boundary violations Ben feared. Edward offers gifts, gestures of care, not expectations.
And this starts to affect Isabella.
Profoundly. That steady, non-threatening presence chips away at her isolation. She starts watching for him, waiting. When he shows up, she feels warm.
A physical sensation of comfort.
Yeah, her heart feels warm. She notices details. His eyes are soft, not cold. His voice is gentle. That feeling of warmth, it's like the first tiny seed of emotional security taking root.
After so much coldness and hardship.
Exactly. And this careful cultivation of trust, this observation of her need, eventually leads Edward to make his big move. The intervention.
The proposal.
Well, first the conversation. One day he sits with her on a bench, serious now, and he lays out her situation, showing he truly gets it. You live alone, you have no family, life is hard for you.
He sees her struggle.
He explicitly acknowledges it, which for someone like Isabella living invisibly in a busy city must have been huge, just being seen.
Yeah.
Then he states his motive. He wants to help because he cares and he sees her. The next day, he gives her a letter.
And the letter contains the offer.
Yes, financial security. He'll pay her rent, buy her food, help with her work materials. Complete support.
But there's a catch.
A big one. Marriage. He wants her to marry him in return for the security. But, and this is crucial, he promises he won't ask for anything else. No other demands.
Wow. That's transactional, but with a boundary. A strange kind of respect within the proposal.
It is strange. A contract, essentially. Security in exchange for the legal status of marriage. For Isabella, living on the edge, is this terrifying or is it a lifeline?
She must have been conflicted.
Intensely. The source describes her wrestling with it. Is this right? Is it love or just help? She weighs his kindness against the shock of the proposal.
But ultimately,
Ultimately, the sheer weight of her circumstances, the absolute lack of any other support, tips the scale. Survival instinct kicks in.
how does she tell him?
The source paints a stark picture. That afternoon, standing in the rain again, she just says it plainly. I will marry you.
No romance, no drama.
None. The source says explicitly. No hug, no kiss, no celebration. Just two people making an agreement in the rain. A promise born of necessity. They agree on a small, simple wedding.
Okay, so they get married, she moves in with him. What's his home like? Does it feel safe?
Immediately, yes. This is where her need for emotional safety starts to merge with the kind of physical security Ben was obsessed with but achieved differently.
How so?
Edward's home is described as being far from the busy streets. Small but solid. Old walls, big windows, it smells nice flowers and wood, and it's full of books.
Sounds peaceful.
She notes how quiet it is, and Edward's response nails it. It is quiet, he says, but it is safe. Safety is the defining feature.
And Edward himself? Does he respect the terms of their agreement?
Completely. That first night is key. Despite the marriage, he treats her like a guest, gives her a large, soft bed. He doesn't come to her room. He honors the boundary he set.
He maintains that respect.
Yes. He builds the safe physical structure of the house and then respects the emotional boundaries within it. He allows her the space to feel secure on her own terms first.
And they settle into a routine.
A quiet one. He makes tea and bread in the mornings. They eat together, often in silence, but it sounds like a comfortable silence. He gardens, grows herbs. She learns he used to work in a bookshop.
Does he interact with her much?
Gently. He starts bringing her storybooks to read. Small gestures, no pressure. Filling the silence not with demands, but with quiet offerings.
This sounds like it's laying the groundwork for something more than just a contract.
Exactly. That consistent, non-demanding presence, the secure environment, it allows something else to grow. And there's a turning point.
What happens?
One evening, Edward simply looks at her and says, I'm glad you're here.
Simple words.
But powerful. The source says Isabella feels that warmth in her chest again, but this time it's different. Not fear, not duty, just warmth.
Yeah.
She starts to see past the arrangement. She sees him not just as her benefactor, but as a kind man with a gentle heart.
The emotional connection is starting to form, independent of the financial security.
Yes. That quiet gratitude, free from fear or obligation, feels like the real beginning of emotional security for her. It could only happen once the basic survival anxieties were lifted. The two needs, physical safety and emotional connection, start to weave together here.
But this newfound peace, this internal feeling of safety, it gets tested by the outside world, doesn't it, in Section 5?
Right. Security isn't just about locks or even a safe house. It's also about how you withstand external judgment.
What happens?
Isabella is in town, maybe at the market, and she overhears some local women whispering about her.
Gossiping.
Yeah, and saying exactly what you'd expect. She only married him for money.
Ouch. Because on the surface, that's how it started.
Exactly. The world imposes its simple, often cynical interpretation onto her complex reality, and she feels shame.
How does Edward react when she tells him?
His response is crucial. He's completely unfazed. He tells her, words mean nothing. I know who you are.
He validates her, not the gossip.
Yes. And he reframes their beginning. He says his motivation wasn't a transaction. It was seeing that she needed kindness. He elevates their arrangement from a mere contract to an act of compassion that just happened to take the form of marriage. He provides an emotional shield against the world's judgment.
That must have been incredibly important for her.
Foundational, I'd say. And we see her internal state continuing to shift. It moves beyond just feeling safe with him to actually needing his presence.
How does that show up?
One day, Edward has to go into the city for something. Isabella stays home. And the source notes, for the first time, she actively misses him. The quiet house suddenly feels too quiet, empty without him. She finds herself waiting for his return.
The silence has changed meaning for her.
It has. It's no longer just peaceful, it's lacking something him.
And when he comes back?
He returns with small flowers, telling her they're just for you. It's a small thing, but it's different now. It's not the bread needed for survival. It's a gesture of personal affection. Her heart beats faster. The feeling isn't just gratitude anymore. It's genuine fondness, maybe more.
This builds towards a key moment, doesn't it? A realization.
It does. After weeks of this shared, quiet life, Edward asks her a simple, direct question. Are you happy, Isabella?
The big question. How does she answer?
Her answer is incredibly powerful because it acknowledges the beginning, but claims the present. She says, I married for money, but now I stay because I want to.
Wow, that's taking ownership.
Complete ownership. It's a moment of choice, free from the initial necessity. Staying because she wants to redefines everything. The contract is fulfilled, but the connection remains by choice.
And this leads to?
Their first kiss. The source describes it as soft and warm, and Isabella's internal thought seals it. Not for gold, not for need. It was for love.
They cross the bridge.
Fully. From a transaction based on lack to a connection based on genuine feeling, on love.
And this internal change gives her strength externally, too.
Yes. The next time she's in town and hears the women whispering, her reaction is completely different.
She doesn't run.
No, she doesn't feel shame. She stands tall, looks directly at them, and then calmly walks away. Her internal thought, I was not their story. She owns her reality now, regardless of their interpretation.
She found her own security, her own truth.
Exactly. And the ultimate test, the final confirmation of their bond, comes when Edward gets sick.
The roles reverse.
Completely. Isabella, who came to him seeking security, now becomes his caregiver. She's the one providing comfort, making soup, reading to him. She feels scared of losing him, but the source says she feels sure. Sure that she loves him, sure that she doesn't want to be without him.
Obligation is gone, replaced by?
By love, by commitment born of affection, and in a quiet moment tending to him, she finally says the words out loud, I love you.
And Edward's response?
His response sums up their whole journey, really. He tells her, weakly, you saved me.
But she disagrees.
She counters, no, you saved me. And they land on this beautiful mutual truth. Maybe we saved each other.
That's the ultimate security, isn't it? Mutual saving, mutual reliance.
I think so. Not built on locks or fear, but on shared vulnerability, care, and eventually love. They became each other's safe place.
So wrapping this up.
Yeah.
We started this deep dive talking about paranoia, about locks and bars, about trying to control privacy and keep the world out.
Yeah, focused on external threats and the language of fear. The effort to build walls.
And we ended with Isabella and Edward, who found a profound security not by building walls, but by eventually letting each other in. Through vulnerability, through a connection that evolved way beyond its practical origins.
It's a powerful contrast. The sources seem almost contradictory at first glance.
Right. A superficial reading of Isabella's story might just see the judgment, young woman, older man, money, transaction.
But digging deeper, like we aim to do in these deep dives, reveals something much more complex. The transaction, the marriage for money, it was just the initial framework. The necessary scaffolding, maybe.
What allowed the real structure to be built?
Edward's consistent kindness, his respect for her boundaries, even within the arrangement, that disarmed the fear. It created the space where necessity could slowly, genuinely transform into affection and then into love. Safety allowed love to grow.
So for you, the listener, the takeaway maybe ties back to that contrast.
I think so. We started with Ben, the man with 4 locks, believing security meant keeping things out, protecting himself from intrusion.
And Isabella ultimately found security in what she allowed in Edward's kindness, his presence, and eventually her own feelings for him.
It leads to a provocative question for you to think about, maybe. What assumptions are you holding on to about where real safety comes from? Is it primarily about locking things down, keeping threats out?
Or could it also be found in vulnerability, in letting the right things or the right people in? What story about security are you telling yourself, and is it the whole truth?
Edward and Isabella found their truth, even when the world whispered a different story. What truth about connection and safety might you need to uncover, even if it looks unconventional from the outside?
Lots to think about there. We'll leave you with that thought. Thanks for joining us.
Catch you on the next deep dive.